from Georgia, raised me on Southern history. It was something that was always sort of within me. And I had my own experiences with ghosts and things on battlefields. But for Volume 2, it had to follow up Volume 1, which was mostly battlefields and regiments, because I also like to extract personal stories, delve deeper into legends and folklore, write about some of the burial places, and that's what Volume 2 follows Volume 1 up with.
How did you key in on some of the certain areas in the book?
So a lot of it was personal exploration and visiting and interviews and traveling all around Georgia for a long period of time. So a lot of it had to do with that, but also reading a lot of firsthand accounts from the war, newspaper articles, finding out where these people were actually fighting, living, and dying, and being buried.
13,000 of the soldiers that were confined to Hendersonville, Georgia, died from disease, malnutrition, overcrowding. It was horrible.
It was called a hellhole on Earth. It was formerly known as Camp Sumter, but all the soldiers called it the hellhole.
Tell us more about some of the ghostly legends of Hendersonville.
Sure. So Andersonville is pretty noted because it had someone who was in charge of it that was the only person in the Civil War actually charged with war crimes that was found guilty and who was executed. And that was someone named Henry Wurz. And Henry Wurz has ghosts that are seen throughout Andersonville and actually throughout D.C., where some of his court trials were. Some think not resting easy because of all the orders he made that led to the inhumane treatment of the people buried there. But I always thought one of the most compelling things that came out of Andersonville, other than, Clara Barton and Dorrance Atwater and their spirits who affected because they were able to identify those buried there, I think one of the more compelling ones is actually of a priest who used to give people final rites there. And there was a ghost story that was well documented for years of a man who was visiting the prison. And as he was walking down the road, he saw sort of a shadowy figure, and it was a rainy day, so he tried to avoid the strange-looking man. And then suddenly the strange-looking man who had once been in front of him was behind him, tapping him on the shoulder. And he put his hand on his head and said, "Sir, I need to administer your last rite." And the man became so frightened, he began to run. And he ran through this man. And he thought, I better not finish visiting the prison today. This was very spooky. I don't know what just happened to me. When he goes to the prison the next day, which is now a national park, he told one of the employees there what had happened, and they said, "Oh, you met Father Whalen. Unofficially we can't tell you he's here, but he is, and he was one of the only priests that would not leave the site and from administering last rites, because a lot of priests did due to fear of disease or just the sorrow of what was happening, and he was one of the ones who didn't."
Courtney, what is it about tragedy that creates some of these ghostly stories?
I think a lot of it is, like you said, the tragedy of a life cut short, a life unfulfilled, a legacy that didn't get to be left behind, the fear of being forgotten. So many of these men that died during the Civil War were ranging in ages 18 to 30, a lot of them on the younger end. So they didn't get to live the lives that you or I may get to live. And so there's the tragedy of that, of the what could have been. And there's also this sort of tragedy to how they died that might keep them in a spot, the violence of it, the quickness of it, the unexpectedness of it. To us, it seems, oh, you go to war, don't you expect this? But they really didn't during the Civil War. It wasn't proposed to them this way. They really thought it was going to be short-lived, quick, and more political. It wasn't until they were really in it that they realized the gravity of it.
Well, with Courtney McIngvale, her website is linked up at coasttocoastam.com. We're talking about her latest work, Civil War Ghosts of Georgia, Volumes 2. We'll also be talking about some of her New England tours later on in the program. How did you assemble the stories? How did you find them?
Yeah, so my favorite way to find stories is actually going through old newspapers and journals of the people that were in the 19th century and reading the memoirs of many of the soldiers that did survive. So a lot of stories came from a man named General John Gordon, who wrote a whole chapter on near-death experiences and his own near-death experiences. There were a lot of stories that came from old accounts of the Oakland Cemetery in Atlanta after the Atlanta campaign, and the Atlanta History Center there has a lot of information on that. And then visiting a lot of people's reports will also provide a lot of information to people there. Will just tell you about the ghosts that they see there and where they came from.
Now, there was a train wreck in Barnesville, Georgia.
Believe it or not, at 6 a.m.
One of the most fascinating stories that I uncovered, and I actually found this one from my cousin, so I have a lot of family that lives down south, so they're kind of like me. They like to find the history and mystery. And when I was visiting doing some more things, my cousin said, "Hey, Courtney, strange this comes in that all key Confederate soldiers are found bloodied on the side of the railway. The locals are burying men or trying to heal them in a barn, but not a single record is kept of who actually died. And all these little white crosses are put in a nearby cemetery, so they figure out the bodies aren't actually there. And then when it gets reported to the newspapers that were actually uncovered were found with serious burns or the full documentation not there. So we never really knew who was on the train or what was on the train, just some neighborhood accounts of how grievous and bloody this train wreck was.
You go on tours in Georgia?
We're starting in Georgia this year in spring of 2025. We're dating to open around Memorial Day weekend. We're going to be opening another brand new site out of Southern Shadows, and we're actually starting in Chickamauga, Georgia, where the second deadliest battle of the war actually took place, and hopefully following up there in Macon, Georgia after that.
Been doing this for how many years now?
So I actually started giving tours back in 2013, so later on this year we are 12th year on in history tours, but I think I've been in history and mystery my entire life.
And in 2014, your books came out called Haunted Mystic, right?
Yes, that was the very first town where we're still operating tours in Mystic, Connecticut, not far from where I grew up. So all the old sea captains, Revolutionary War soldiers, things like that, that's haunted Mystic and the tours here in Connecticut.
Tell us about Savannah, Georgia, and its haunted history.
Sure, so Savannah is fascinating, and in fact, when I was writing the War Goes to Georgia Volume 2, I had quite a few segments on Savannah. So my publisher, he said, we have a whole section on Savannah, there's just so much, and people want to visit all of these spots. So Savannah is fascinating in that it is where General Sherman marches to the sea, and it's where they hand the keys to Savannah, and will give Savannah the city to Lincoln as a Christmas present during the Civil War, after he causes this massive destruction across Georgia. But Savannah is a place that's full of hospitals, full of old bars where soldiers used to hang out, full of cemeteries where Civil War soldiers, and full of green forts that are all haunted by this time period and turned into towards attacks, whether it was from ironclads or whatnot. And so the amount of boats in Savannah for the Civil War alone is immense. And then just adding on the famous Savannah Spirits on top of that sort of quadruple it.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? WashableSofas.com has your back, featuring the Anime Collection, the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabrics. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Check out WashableSofas.com and get up to 60% off your Anime sofa, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
On this podcast itself, we unpack an emergent mindset.
I am a loser. Also, a little bit.
The hidden world of resentment, cynicism, anger against women, and identity.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge.
This is Incels. Listen to Incels on the iHeartRadio app or whenever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you want early access to new episodes and to hear exclusive bonus content, be sure to subscribe to the iHeart True Crime Plus channel today, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
Hey Law & Order fans, I'm Anastasia Nicolazzi, host of Law & Order Criminal Justice System. I'm here to let you know that we're launching our second season, this time focusing on the evolution of terrorism in the United States, both domestic and international. We're going back to the beginning, looking at how and why terrorism became so prevalent and how law enforcement pivoted to help combat it. I'm excited to share with you the new season of Law & Order Criminal Justice System, and want to let you know that you can get access to all episodes of Season 1 and Season 2 100% ad-free with an iHeart True Crime Plus subscription, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts. Plus, you'll get early access to special bonus episodes of the new season. So don't wait. Head to Apple Podcasts, search for iHeart True Crime Plus, and subscribe today. Hi everyone, I'm Andrea Gunning, host of Betrayal. I'm excited to bring you a brand new season every single episode of Betrayal Weekly ad-free with an iHeart True Crime Plus subscription, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts. Plus, you'll get access to all episodes of Betrayal Weekly 1 week ahead of everyone else, available only to iHeart True Crime Plus subscribers. So don't wait. Head to Apple Podcasts, search for iHeart True Crime Plus, and subscribe today. Hey there, it's Lizzie from the Food Nanny. Did you know our signature Camus flour isn't just delicious, it's packed with nutrients and easier to digest than modern wheat. It's an AJ grade with a rich nutty flavor that makes everything from bread to cookies taste amazing. Plus, it's naturally high in protein and trace minerals. Ready to give it a try? Visit thefoodnanny.com or stop by a local store near you. Keep cooking, your family is worth it.
How are you?
Renee, were some of these hauntings, were they scary or were they just pleasant?
Said hello, dragon fruit. How are you? Can you hear me? What's that mean? Best wishes from London, hello. Peter Cooper. Thank you, thank you. From Utah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Best wishes to you too. We're almost at Fremont.
Significant, are they?
Yeah, so they're significant in that they're in Savannah, which is sort of the coastal area of
They're
Georgia.
turning,
And they have significance
go.
from the beginning to the end.
Go.
So in the very beginning, if you have the Confederacy, which is in charge of some of these forts, very quickly they get taken over from them. In Pulaski, though, you actually have the Confederates close to our prison, so known as the Immortal 600, who were also starving to death, just like the Union brethren that were down in Andersonville. A lot of them were eating rats and cats and trying
Sticking
to
that out
survive
all the way
in their
and they're not
local state. A
going.
lot of them
Utah drivers suck.
sign that they were going the north, and so it would go up kind of like Hunger Strike, but also like that. Fort McAllister was attacked several times by Union ironclads under William Sherman, and then
Some
it was
people
kindred spirit. And one of the ways I was kind of looking for it is in the Battle of Chickamauga, he actually had to have a leg amputated. And supposedly in Gulf, Georgia, his leg is buried there. And of course, that's controversial and we're not sure, but that's stuff that I like to go and find out. Well, I've always gone and investigated these sites, but one day when I wasn't actively investigating, I was just out on the Chickamauga battlefield. I went to the area where he had been shot, the shot that led to that amputation. I was laying out there actually reading his book, Advanced Retreat. My husband met me there later and was sitting with me in the middle of the afternoon just a couple months ago. And I was looking there, and there were no sidewalks or pathways. But around 2 p.m., we heard someone say hello. Now, I heard it, but I didn't want to say anything until my husband said he heard it as well. Did you just hear hello? I said I did. And we looked around and we didn't see anyone. And I kept reading. And suddenly I got to the point in the book where General Hood wrote that it was around 2 p.m. And the exact spot where I had been saying that he had been struck by a baseball in his eye. And I thought, oh my gosh, is it coincidence that I heard him say hello or someone say hello at that exact moment it happened in? And then later that night, when we went to the spot, I took some pictures, and sure enough, we got an image of a man on a horse. Justin Hood had described he would have been near that spot.
Listen to more Coast to Coast AM every weeknight at 1 a.m. Eastern. And go to coasttocoastam.com for more.
On this podcast, Incels, we unpack an emergent mindset.
I am a loser. But also let me know when pay me either.
Hit a world of resentment, cynicism, anger against women at a deadly tipping point.
Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge.
This is Incels. Listen to Incels on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you want early access to new episodes and to hear exclusive bonus content, be sure to subscribe to the iHeart True Crime Plus channel today, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
Hey, it's Anna, host of The Girlfriend's Jailhouse Lawyer. You can listen to this brand new season now, plus all episodes of The Girlfriend Season 1, Season 2, and The Girlfriend Spotlight. Plus, if you have an iHeart True Crime Plus subscription, you'll get episodes completely ad-free and 1 week earlier than everyone else. And because The Girlfriend's Jailhouse Lawyer has been selected as one of Apple's summer listens, we're offering you a free 30-day trial. It's a limited offer, so make sure you grab it before it's too late. Once you're all signed up, you'll get access to some of iHeart's other chart-topping true crime shows, like Betrayal, The Godmother, Burden of Guilt, American Homicide, and loads more. Head to Apple Podcasts, search for iHeart True Crime Plus, and subscribe today.
Hey, Law & Order fans, I'm Anastasia Nicolazzi, host of Law & Order Criminal Justice System. I'm here to let you know that we're launching our second season, this time focusing on the evolution of terrorism in the United States, both domestic and international. We're going back to the beginning, looking at how and why terrorism became so prevalent and how law enforcement pivoted to help combat it. I'm excited to share with you the new season of Law & Order Criminal Justice System, and want to let you know that you can get access to all episodes of Season 1 and Season 2 100% ad-free with an iHeart True Crime Plus subscription, available exclusively on Apple Podcasts. Plus, you'll get early access to special bonus episodes of the new season. So don't wait. Head to Apple Podcasts, search for iHeart True Crime Plus, and subscribe today.